Hey everybody, this is Lee Wyke, street luger, Portland, Oregon. And yesterday I made a video. It's a much longer one, and my main intent with that was to get you to understand who I really am. Because when Frank went on streetluge.com in 2013 to tell 4 paragraphs of complete lies, not only did he not let you know who I was, he went the complete opposite direction of who I am. If I knew this guy, that he's building a fiction about me, I'd want to kick his ass. As it is, since this guy doesn't exist, and Frank's the guy who's telling the lie about me, then I wanted to face Frank. I first tried to do that on the forum, but found out streetlugeforums.com is very negatively biased. So, meaning that Frank took my thread, which was how about Maryhill Festival of Speed 2010 t-shirt, and it was just, how about a better t-shirt? These guys in skating and street luging are so anal about bearings, wheels, boards, everything. They can talk about it all day and nobody gets offended. But I, as a professional screen printer, when I made my opinion known, starting out with, hey, it's a great event. It's so cool that all these people come. I mean, that's why I went. 2010, when I couldn't even really afford it, I managed to get it together and make the money so I could go. I even built 2 street luges. Why? Because the first one that I had built, which I was going to take to Maryhill, this is one of the boards Frank calls a piece of shit. Well, this board goes down Timberline Road, Mountain Hood, 50 plus miles an hour. I've never seen Frank there. So if you want to ride with me anywhere someday, instead of some of you just want to get on and brown nose Frank and yak, 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 you don't know me, you haven't ridden with me, show up with your board one day and then call my thing, any of my boards. I got 5 of them that I ride now, pieces of shit. Frank's never seen any one of them but this, never ridden any of them, but he's going to go on a national forum, and one of the things he says down here, he calls my boards a piece of shit. Okay, so this guy goes on another, Frank Williams goes on another website, you know, it's, and he's being interviewed by some guy, whatever. I'm not going to give credit to that site. And they're asking Frank all these questions, and one of the things they ask is, what is he like? Oh, I like about everything, but I don't like hypocrites. Well, what's the biggest thing a hypocrite could say and still be in line with being a hypocrite? That they don't like hypocrites. And if they are one, there'd be no more hypocritical statement that they just said, but it would be in perfect alignment with who they really are. So when Frank tells you he doesn't like hypocrites, while he's the biggest one I know, it doesn't really mean much. So I'm going to get into this, and unlike my video yesterday where I took time to bring out my street luges, and if you have patience and you're not, you know, one of those people that thinks Frank is your Lord and Savior and you're not tied to this guy for no real reason, you don't have the bias that the forum has, you know, Frank hijacked my thread to totally be beside the point and make up this fiction, which is beside the point again because it's not me. The forum let him do it. The administration said that let him do it. They removed me not only from my own thread, but they banned me from posting on the forum. So see, Frank is the devil they know. They don't know me. They don't know how much respect and just true, pure, just interest and ethics and creativity that I approach street luge with. If anybody was really into street luging and they met me and they knew me and they rode with me, they'd think I was the perfect representative for their sport. Because I'm not trying to get sponsored and pretend like I like Dr. Pepper and sip it so I can try to win the contest. I'm not trying to pull any kind of bullshit maneuvers at all to look better to anybody. I don't pose ever. I've never had the option of posing in my life, in business, in friendships, for a sport, to gain a sponsorship, anything. I've never had the offer to do that. I've never had the interest to do that. I don't get into anything unless I have a pure, true interest in it. And I think that's been hardwired into me because the field I got into of screen printing, my job depended every day, not by getting behind a keyboard on the internet and working out some bullshit to aim at somebody to try to bring somebody down in my own sport. What kind of champion does that? No champion does that. I had to get out of bed, show up every day for over 30 years, and learn and prove I knew what I knew and learn more enough to keep my job. There's been many times when I've been hired to a job, in and out of screen printing. I built solar panels for a while. And when it would slow down in the wintertime, they would get rid of people that had worked there longer than I did because the drive, the motivation, the attention, and they knew that I cared about the work. That's it. It wasn't just that, hey, I better do a good job or I'm not going to get paid. I don't do things that I don't enjoy. I always test myself first. I ask myself, and I do that because really I have a lot of interests. I'm capable of doing a lot of things, but we only all have so much time, right? So I always ask myself, what are the things that I'm most willing to dedicate my time to? You know, that could be called passion. I had a passion for screen printing, and then hang gliding and kayaking, and you know, it starts taking up your time really quick, and I've got years into all those things. And then I got into street luging back in 2009 when I saw it on YouTube, and it was just one of those things where it immediately clicked in me, and it was like, I know I got to do that. And so I built a couple of real simple ones, and I made sure that they were mechanically sound because after all, I'm going to be the one riding down a hill on it, and all you guys know, you don't have to be going real fast. So when you come off and hit the asphalt, you can be wearing those scabs for quite a while. So, yeah, having built 4,000 screen printing presses, it was just in my nature to build anything that I build correctly. So I did that. And I went to Mount Tabor and I rode my luge. I was like, wow, I really like this. But I want to make something that's technically better, that just is up a few notches. So if I wanted to take it to an event, I could. And so my first street luge, and you can tell by looking even at the photo, this is me on top of Timberline Road, up Timberline Lodge, just outside of Timberline Lodge, on Mount Hood, Oregon. It's about a 9-10 minute ride, and at certain places you can get around 50 miles an hour. Of course, you always have to gauge your speed to the curves, and so that's what I do. But this luge is capable of going faster than that. And it was built a really nice drop pin. I still have it, actually. It's behind me there. It's been reworked. It's been remodded or modded from a pegged to a pegless, and I've done some other changes to it. I don't have the huge headrest on the back and the fairings sticking out and everything. But it was unique, self-designed, kind of looked cool. Looked like he was doing about 100 miles an hour sitting still. And it was my first real investment of myself and my budding care in street luging. And so when I was looking at Maryhill Festival of Speed races in 2010, 2009 into 2010, you know, with the dream that, hey, I'd like to go there and do that and be part of the community and everything, you know, I started watching races and I started noticing that, wow, well, I've seen a lot of older videos that have the boomed, the extensions for your feet on the street luges, but it seems like they're riding something different now. They're pegless luges, shorter. You know what I'm talking about. And so I thought about it for a second. I thought that makes sense. It would make a big difference on the track to be riding with people if you had different equipment than them, because, I mean, obviously this is a little bit different when you're going through turns and everything. I think it makes sense, and it's my belief that you're not going to have the navigation capability, the maneuverability on a pegged luge that you're going to have on a pegless, just because you've got so much more ability to move your feet and braking options. And a smaller luge, I think you can make work in a smaller, you can take curves tighter and all that. I mean, I just think it's better. And so I acknowledged it as a good idea, you know. I wasn't so prideful and, you know, oh, well, I'm just getting started in this, but I like mine better. I immediately recognized that even though I had put a bunch of work into this, that I did not have the most contemporary, best thing that I should be going to Maryhill with. So even though I had done all the work to going into this, it's not just a ski, it's not just a board, it's the drop frame, all the work that goes into just building the frame itself. Put 11 ply birch, aircraft hardware, everything. Four wheels on the ground. It's expensive luge for me to put this together, even building it myself. But I realized, and Mary Hill 2010 was coming up pretty fast, I realized, I want to respect these riders with showing up with contemporary gear. So what I did was I turned right around and I built another luge that was almost identical, except for it didn't have anything, the fairings and stuff I put on it to kind of make it more aero and make it look cool, because when you're laying down on your street luge, it pretty much disappears, so it's just pretty much what mechanically does the job, and that's it. So I patterned another luge after the first one that I made, but it was 2 trucks in front, 1 truck in the back, and it's right here actually. It's right up front, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time getting into the luges, because then it pushes back the topic too much of what I want to get in. I want to share with you what Frank said about me. You need to understand, I knew this guy from 2009. He came on in 2013 and said all this stuff about me. What kind of guy says that kind of stuff? You should be aware of it. And give it an honest look instead of just lying behind him and, be one of the brown nosers or clones that just follows in this guy's steps because he's a so-called champion. Why would you do that? All right, so this is the next one I made. As you can see, it's got the drop frame. I don't keep wheels on them on some of my luges when I'm running, because I'm running actually the wheels on this one that I've got up here. I did a test of my camera boom yesterday, and I took the wheels that I like off of this luge to put them on there. But anyway, this is the luge that I built for the 2010 Mary Hill Festival of Speed. It was approved. I took it there. It passed all the tests. And it was approved to be on. And now this is me, a brand new street luger, never been in a race, international or otherwise before, but I had studied enough, and my build capabilities and attention were already strong enough because of the build experience I had, albeit screen printing. Building equipment is building equipment. You either pay attention and you do it right based on specifications that you know and understand, or don't. And so I knew and understood the specifications. I added some design things of my own. This rail is different from what people have. You've seen Rogers and TRS. You see the obvious visual difference. But the things that matter for riding are there. Now, what was the drawback of this luge when I went to 2010? The luge is not a piece of shit. I am riding this luge right now. It's my second favorite luge to bring down Timberline Road. And I'm going around 50 miles an hour, sometimes faster. Same luge. Colors are different. I changed it to red, silver, and black instead of yellow, silver, or yellow, white, and black. But other than that, it's the same luge. And I added a couple of struts from the knee rest to this bar here, just to clean it up a little bit and give it a little bit more strength. If I was to run into something, it gives a little more strength on the ends. That's all I've done. So this is a luge that was approved in 2010 for Mary Hill Festival of Speed. Oh, and a point that you really need to understand, pay attention to. Whatever Frank has done since 2011 or 2012, when he actually made Mary Hill Festival of Speed and started doing other events, Frank Williams was not at 2010 Mary Hill Festival of Speed. I met Frank in 2009 or very early 2010. He talked and talked and talked about the upcoming Mary Hill MHFOS 2010. We talked about it as we were climbing the hill to luge down it. I don't know how many times. He did not go. Now, I was busy with my home business. I really didn't have time. Honestly, at that point, I didn't even really have the money to put towards street luging. But as much of a stress was the time. I really didn't have it. I thought, if I'm going to make this happen, I've got to take a break in my printing and my press building for my customers, and I've got to make this luge happen. So I'd be working on a press, and I would take an hour off, or sometimes two, and I would do something on my luge. You know, that takes attention and discipline, and to do it, both things that I was doing, building equipment, printing, doing that quality, and then shifting my brain to something that I had only built one of before, as far as competition grade, and I did it. I made it happen. I managed to put aside the money so that I could pay the heavy entrance fees for Maryhill. I even had spent the money. One of the reasons why I was short on money isn't because I was broke, but I had a Toyota van, which I loved at that time, aside from my truck as well. And I loved that Toyota van. It got great gas mileage, and I thought, man, I really need to put a new rear end in that Toyota van. I probably should have waited until after Maryhill, but I didn't. I thought, I found a guy who had time, found a good deal on a rear end. I didn't want to lose it, but it was still going to be an expensive replacement. So I was even going to put it in myself because I understand how to do it. I just didn't have time. I had so much printing and press work to do, and building the luge, I could barely get that done. So I had this guy come over in my driveway and put in a new rear end in my Toyota van. All right, so my time was wrapped up, my money was wrapped up, but nevertheless, I made it happen. I made the, and when I was driving to the event, just sitting in my car, driving out there, it was like the first time I'd had to relax in, I don't know, a long time. I was just going, wow, I'm here, I'm making it, And so I get there, and I'm on a practice day, okay? And I'm just stoked. I realize I had a video up on a channel on YouTube, and I'm trying to work with YouTube to see if there's any way they can find out what happened to my channel. It disappeared. It had a lot of cool RC stuff and street luging stuff on it. But one of the videos I had on there was one of a practice run video that I did at MHFOS 2010. And I put some text on it because I did all the editing and everything. And one of the things I said is, I'm surrounded by pros. These guys are way better. I never had a big head about it, but I was, I thought, okay, you know what? Put a foot forward. You don't get anywhere if you don't put a foot forward. And so I did. I didn't do it with any kind of attitude or anything. I went there to watch and learn, experience. You got to start somewhere, right? I told you, when I saw street luging on the internet, it clicked. I fell in love with it. I was going to do my best, I ran into a guy up on the top of Mount Hood one time when I had my street luge. Actually, I had this same one up there. And this big-time skier. Well, he's maybe real, I don't know him, but he was maybe really good at skiing. But he came over, and after looking at my luge a little bit, he goes, oh, I'm going to get a street luge. And, guy almost sounded like a cartoon. He's like, I'm going to get a street luge. I'm going to win all kinds of awards, and I'm going to be... And he was just like pouring out all this egotistical talk about street luging. He didn't even know what one was, 30 seconds before he started spewing all this stuff. And I told him, I said, you know what? You got to be more realistic about it than that. I started out, I built a simple one. I experienced it by doing it on a small hill, local in town, and I went from there. Don't get ahead of yourself. That's the worst thing that you can do. You don't want to be afraid. My fear circuits were burnt out a long time ago for about anything and everything. You don't want to be overly cautious, but you don't want to be so zealous that you stop using your brain, Just build up slowly. Haven't heard or seen from that guy since. He's nowhere around street luging, and it's because he approached it with a completely unrealistic, actually I would go as far as to say disrespectful to the sport attitude. Because if you just jump in it thinking you're going to be better than everybody and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, why? Because you said so? No. You got to be humble enough to learn and take up what's already been established before you ever showed up. And if you can build on it, I've got 2 inventions to my name for screen printing, which is why my $300 screen printing press prints better than a $3,000 or more screen printing press for manual screen printers. That was a result of me knowing what I knew about screen printing. I didn't say, well, I'm going to be this. I didn't get it because I wanted it. I came up with that invention because I'd been through the hard ruts and all the things that led to me inventing that invention. I'm glad I invented it. It might have come from somebody else. So I don't want to be disrespected when I deserve respect for what I've done, but I don't want to be respected for things that I don't deserve respect for because I haven't paid the dues and earned the right to ask for that respect. I think that's the perfect place to be in, and it's how I approach street luging. It's how I approach everything. Anything else is posing, and it's being a fake. And I don't care if you've got champion in front of your name. If you're presenting yourself that way, in a poser fake way, where you want respect that you don't deserve, then you may have experience, you may have awards, but you're still a poser, and you don't deserve that respect. Now, I'd like to give Frank, I wish that I could just respect him for his wins, but I've known him since 2009, and where he comes from, and how this guy kind of operates on the inside to get what he wants. I've got the written proof of it right here. And this all happened. It started taking place in building from 2009-2010. Context clues. We all learned about them in grade school, right? It's where you don't just look at the story and the thing the person tells you in their story. You look between the lines to see, well, how did you get there? What happened for you to build that either truth or lie on? Because any story is based on something, right? So a real tricky, savvy person can calmly tell you lies, take advantage of their position if you know them, and they can trick you into believing that, oh, well, it's presented so clearly, it must be true. No, real good liars are very smooth at their lies because they're comfortable with their lies. I don't want to hang out with that kind of person. You know, that person is just as happy as using lies to get what they want, posing to get what they want, as they are telling the truth. So, you know, I got into street luging. I did not get into it so that I could pose my way, get 1 cent, or get one step forward with anybody by faking it and appearing, you know, whether it's trying to get a sponsorship or pretend I like this drink so I can win some award that doesn't mean anything. I wouldn't do it because that's not how I'm about. Everything that I've done in street luging has been my money. Sponsorship's okay, but what is the ethical relationship between you and your sponsor? Are you, you know, most people who are sponsored by somebody, you know, come on, really? They couldn't give a rip about what the sponsor's product. You know, I could be sponsored by Kit Kat, you know, but I would feel stupid going, hey, I'm Lee White, Portland street luger. And what do I eat when I'm not street luging? Kit Kat. It's my favorite chocolate bar. And maybe they'd give me money for that. But that is just so much bullshit. I just could never do that. You know, people stop sometimes. They ask me, it's like, do I really need to explain it to you? If I ride up past somebody with a bottle cage, you know, on my bike, they're not going to question, hey, why do you have a water bottle cage on your bike? Holds a water bottle in case I get thirsty. Seems kind of obvious, doesn't it? But when I put one on my street luge, like I've got one here and my other one, because I go certain places where when I get to the end, there is no way or place to get a drink. So I have a bottle cage on a couple of my luges. So I guess if I wanted to take a bottle of Dr. Pepper, I could have. And instead of Gatorade or Mountain Dew or water in many of my videos, most of them on my disappeared YouTube channel, although I think one of the ones that I had on disc that I've resurrected, I think I'm riding the luge that I have. I think you can see actually a Gatorade sloshing around on the back. So hey, don't have a Gatorade bottle here right now, but I guess that serves as a more realistic, truthful foundation for me to sponsor Gatorade. They're not asking me. I drink it because I like it. I take it with me. Or like I said, a Mountain Dew. This guy's never done any of that. But I want you to watch this video I've got queued up here in a minute. This is Frank, what his commercial he did, which is more about him, you know, trying to get you to believe, because this is his attitude. Boy, nobody's more full of himself than Frank Williams. So when they come out with a contest, Dr. Pepper, or it could have been anybody, where the title is the one or one of a kind, oh, you can bet Frank's going to, with his ego, he's going to be right there. So let me play this for you. Watch along here and just listen to this guy gloat about himself, and don't miss the gulping a Dr. Pepper scene. To me, this is just hilarious. Okay, let's get it going here.
Millions of men love racing, but not many make it their passion. Even fewer decide to do it powered solely by gravity. I am the 2012 Classic Street Luge World Series champion. I am Frank Williams, and I am one of a kind.
Yeah, well, yep, he got that right. He is one of a kind in one way. But then again, he's not. I don't know, is there a class of guys that poses to their buddies on a street luge run, you know, so they can be liked enough and then get a championship, but then the same kind of guy turns around and is just completely nasty to somebody else trying to come up in street luging? I mean, maybe that is a one-of-a-kind person. That's a kind of a maybe psychosis, but I still doubt that it's one of a kind. How do you be this kind of a nasty guy and then ever proudly claim in any sense that you're a champion? Because champions aren't somebody who crosses the finish line on a certain day at a certain time. And if you really dissect his stats, he's got there more by accrued points from going to more races because he's getting above everything else. This is a guy who in 2009, 2010 was telling me how much he was, you know, he's going to be a firefighter. All firefighters are champions. I don't think any of you would disagree with that. Do you think they're crawling up on podiums, you know, several times a year with big smiles on their faces, holding up any kind of award for being found to be a firefighter champion, for all the lives they save and the things that they really do every day to prove it? No, most of the real champions in the world don't get awarded. It's just how they're hardwired. They want to help, they want to rise to a certain level, and that is their reward, right? Are you that way, or do you know somebody who's that way? Because in my own way, I am that way. I don't seek or need trophies. Some people seek or need trophies so hard and so much that they'll even build a podium of lies to help get them there. So I've already waited longer than I wanted to wait to share what Frank said to you about me, so we're going to get into that. But, oh, yeah, real quickly, why should I give, if you don't know me, if you've never seen me before, why should your first impression of me be Frank's evil one? No, it shouldn't be. I did work for all my years in my trade of screen printing. All the equipment that I've built, the inventions, the other things that I've done, still the thing that I'm most proud of, in a positive sense, one of the companies I did work for gave me this recommendation, so I'm going to share it with you. It says, from Dennis Uniform, Sue Roberts, to whom it may concern, I would highly recommend the services of Lee Wyke. I found him to be very knowledgeable about all aspects of the screen printing business. In his capacity as screen printer and consultant for Dennis Uniform, he was able to reorganize our screening department so it could more efficiently handle the increased volume it has experienced over the last couple of years. In addition to training and supervising 2 screeners, he advised us regarding the upgrading of our equipment. I did more than advise. I completely rebuilt 2 screen printing presses they had that were totally unfunctional, as well as showing us techniques to increase output while minimizing mistakes. In a number of instances, he actually manufactured accessory items for the equipment, which helped streamline production. In a relatively short period of time, both the quantity and quality of our production improved dramatically. I feel confident that our screening department will continue to improve as we implement the suggestions, a lot more than suggestions, made by Lee. His expertise has been invaluable. Okay, well, anytime somebody makes a, writes something down, that you say things that don't quite hit things on the head or whatever, I'm more than a suggestion guy. Sometimes that's why I've built 7 street luges. Does anybody need 7 street luges? No. But every time I have an idea of a little tweak or something, I want to build a luge to prove it. And that's how I've been in screen printing. You know, among those 4,000 screen printing presses that I built, there was a lot of test ideas and different tweaks and things that I did to you know, kind of change up on the theme a little bit, you know, and see if I could come up with something that I might like a little better, you know. That's what keeps it fresh and new and creative. But I don't just do that for myself. I love doing it for other people. If I think of something that makes sense and they want me to help them do that for them, I'm not big-headed about doing it. I enjoy getting in there and doing it. It's the best thing I can do for my trade, myself, and them. It's a balanced thing that's good for everybody. I'm all for community when communities working together. And I approach street luging that same way. You know, nothing holding me back in street luging. My purity of thought, ethics, and integrity when I built any of my luges. The only bad thing and element that you'll run into people that you really don't like or prefer in anything that you do. I mean, people just rub each other the wrong way sometimes. But this guy, Frank Williams, has been the worst element, the most unprofessional, lack of ethics, hypocritical, cowardly, lying guy that I've ever met having to do with anything I've ever done, any sport I've ever been in. And that's why I'm not letting go. Unfortunately, this guy happened to be the only other luger in my town, Portland, Oregon. He saw one of my videos on YouTube of me street luging. So I was going to be street luging whether I ever met or knew Frank or not. As a matter of fact, he had been out of street luging for 8 years. On an online interview, he says he was on hiatus. But then a life change caused him to get back into street luging. Really? He's not going to tell you that I'm that life change. He was sitting on his butt. He saw my video of me street luging. He saw that I was passionate about it. Something happened in him, either by jealousy or I would like to say he just, you know, joined in positive motivation because I was. But that's not the sense I got from this guy from the beginning. From the very first time I met him, he took his purchased luge off his current girlfriend's car. I pulled my, you know, self-designed, self-built street luge out of my car, and he just gave it a condescending look. You know, some people who are jealous and threatened, that's what they'll do. They'll pretend that they're above you so that they can look down on you. When actually, at that time, they're jealous because they can see that you have something that they don't. So look at it this way. Frank, having luged before and spent all that money, over $1,000 on a street luge, had let that luge sit for 8 years. Where's the passion? Then all of a sudden he meets a guy or he sees a guy on YouTube who has the passion. Oh, wow, if you're a guy who's really up on yourself and egotistical and you're sitting on the couch thinking about being a street luger with all that expensive equipment lying around, but you're really not a street luger anymore, and then all of a sudden you see a guy coming out of his single car garage with a self-built street luge and all the passion in the world, me, you're either going to be uplifted by that or you're going to be threatened by that. And so everything Frank did after that proved to me that he was threatened by that. I very quickly found this guy to be passive-aggressive, not an honest person. He doesn't tell you to your face what he's thinking. I found out especially when we were out at Mount Scott one day. I had invited him and another guy, again, by my invitation to Mount Scott. They had never ridden there, didn't even know about it. So I wanted things to go as smoothly as possible. Well, you're waiting 15 minutes for a bus to take you up. And if a bus passes you by, which one did, you're waiting another 15 minutes. That's a half an hour of standing there for no good reason because a bus driver passed you up. So, you know, I felt like, hey, you know, that bus driver, we're paying customers, and he just passed us up for no acceptable reason. And the bus company agreed with me when I called them up about it later. As a matter of fact, I got a free bus pass for letting them know that, for my inconvenience. They don't just hand those things out. So the bus driver was wrong. If I'd have been by myself riding, you know, maybe I wouldn't have cared. But I was with two people that I had invited. And I respected their time and energy and interest. I wasn't going to fly off the handle about it and get my pants in a twist and all that. It's not worth that. But the bus driver, close to the end of the run, they take you up to the top of the hill or halfway up, and then they turn around and come back up. That's as far as the bus goes. So when he passed us by, it wasn't very long before he looped around and came back by, parked on the other street, on the other side of the street, and I was able to walk across the street. And I said, well, why did you pass us up? You're not supposed to do that. There's nothing wrong with what we're doing. The bus is already empty because you're near the end of your run. Nobody else has ever not wanted to pick us up. And the guy just slammed the window in my face and drove on. So the bus driver had the negative attitude and in fact was wrong. I wasn't. I questioned it. Frank, he just had no guts. And there's another guy standing there that he wants to look good in front of. So here's me. I've got the guts to do something else that Frank doesn't have the guts to do. And just because I questioned this bus driver, Frank got all stormy, but he didn't say much about it then. He waited till he was home and he could hide behind his keyboard, and he let me have it then, behind his keyboard. Passive-aggressive coward. So like I say, I face things head on. I've never had an option to do things otherwise. So this same guy, he's so passive-aggressive that when I put up a video about a t-shirt, and sorry, this video turns out to be as long as the last one. When I put up about questioning a t-shirt, not anybody, not slamming anybody, just like somebody else might be talking about bearings, I'm talking about a t-shirt. Oh, and he hijacks my forum to just slam me with lies. Passive-aggressive guy again. And this is in 2013 he's doing this. I'm talking about an event in 2010. And, come on. So, it just never should have happened. And then, of course, the bias of the forum by when I responded with the truth, they took the truth down, but they kept up all his lies. Why? It's like the devil they love or something. They support him for no reason at all. 2,000 people. I get disparaged by this being left up on this forum in front of at least 2,000 people. For what? I did nothing to deserve this. So I'm going to read you what Frank said, and then hopefully there's time, well, there will be, where I can pick it apart. It's so easy to do that. I shouldn't even have to do it for you. And not even one other street loser tried to. And that was the biggest disappointment. It's like, wow, why isn't anybody just there's not even like the slightest fact checker here. They're not even seeing the most obvious holes in his story. So let me show you where they are, because it's easy for me to do. All right. Regarding Maryhill MHFOS, how about a better t-shirt? Again, which was a thread started by me. So this is what Frank says. He goes, so why didn't you offer to help John by printing his shirts at a discount? Remember, I'm going to answer all these when I'm done, but I'm going to read it straight through at first. His shirts at a discount or for a free race entry. You talk a lot but accomplish nothing. You're a kook and a blight to the sport locally and a running gag internationally. We all laugh at you. You went to one event for one day, never qualified, and left in disgrace because you suck at riding. You've never raced. You can't even make any of the 5 events that are only 2 hours from your home. Wow, see, we just finished paragraph 1. Look how much nastiness is there. If you have a truth to tell about somebody, do you have to be nasty about it? People will learn from the truth. But when you're just trying to be nasty, that's a whole other thing. When you're being nasty and telling lies together, it doesn't get any worse than that. So here we go to paragraph 2. In another thread, you implied that I don't inspire you. Well, I don't care. It's not my job to inspire you. But I'll tell you what. I've traveled the world for this sport. I've raced on 4 continents. My reward for that wasn't t-shirts. Some races don't include shirts. It is the memories of racing with my friends and meeting new people. Oh, and a World Series championship. Gloat, gloat. Paragraph 3. You have totally burned out one of the best local spots for training new riders because of your reckless behavior and confrontational, holier-than-thou attitude. Because of this, the luge class in the only serious DH race in Portland has been axed. You have been banned from Mount Tabor by the Neighborhood Association and Park Security. I just hope that makes you realize the kind of person you are. Last paragraph, 4. Now he's trying to get real personal here. You're a loser, a joke, and hurt the credibility of this sport every time you get on one of your POS piece of shit boards. I implore you to stop. Stop. Everything luge related, just stop. Now, he's got several sponsors listed below that, but the only real one is Aurora Silk. Now, do you think they give him their money to put this kind of nastiness out in their name? Well, maybe so, because I let them know about this. They don't know me, and they're not even going to warn their guy, hey, we're not paying you to represent us with this kind of nastiness. Don't you think that a sponsor would at least come up with that much? This does nothing to help street luging. It can't, because it's lies. Certainly didn't help me. Okay, now here's my answer. And this is going to take a little while because there's so many lies to pick apart. So why didn't you help John by printing his shirts at a offering to print his shirts at a discount or for a free race entry? I did offer. I emailed several times, never heard nothing back. You talk a lot but accomplish nothing. Really? Frank talked a lot about becoming a firefighter, accomplished nothing. I already had 30 years in my trade and I accomplished plenty. I got 2 inventions to my name. I had already built 3 street luges. At that point, he had built none. It took him about 2 years to build something as simple. But you could be retarded and drunk and put together a butt board, and it took him almost 2 years to do that. Plus, remember, Frank did not go to 2010. Maryhill Festival of Speed. I did. I accomplished something. I built 2 luges, actually, and went. Frank didn't go. You're a kook and a blight to the sport locally. Who says? And a running gag internationally, only because of his lies. We all laugh at you. They don't know me. I'd been to 1 international event, Maryhill Festival of Speed, and actually the losers are by and large so cliquish that they don't even talk to you. I had a couple of guys, one really friendly guy from Australia who talked to me a lot, and another guy from Chris McBride, local guy, who talked to me a little bit. He's always been friendly on and offline. Everybody else, they just kind of kept to themselves, didn't even make an attempt to be friendly. You went to 1 event for 1 day. That's right. I got hurt on a practice day. Brand new street luger on a brand new luge I didn't have any practice for. I said in my own video years before this that, wow, I'm new, I'm the worst guy out here, but I'm working my way up. I never had a big head about it, so nobody has the right to rub it in. And I got hurt because I was there making an effort. Frank couldn't have got hurt because he wasn't there. He was making no effort. He's going to save his effort for years later and call me a disgrace because I got hurt honestly, and I never blamed it on anybody. At the end that afternoon when I hurt my knee, I couldn't even bend my leg very far, but I thought it would be better overnight, so I stayed in town overnight. The next morning it was far worse. So I had to drive all the way back home, and nobody could have been more disappointed than me. The expense, the opportunity that I lost from getting hurt on a practice day, and this guy's going to rub that in my face, a guy who wasn't even there. He made no efforts, no expense at all. But years later, he thinks he can go back and slam me for the honest efforts that I made long before Frank ever did. And then he's going to say, he goes, you went to 1 event for 1 day, never qualified, and left in disgrace because you suck at riding. I ride places that 5 years later, Frank still doesn't ride. Never once seen him slamming down Timberline Road with no straw bales on Mount Hood. No, he's still showing people the bunny hills on his website. You've never raced. Yeah, I race myself all the time. Trying to get better, feeling what's the right line and what's the wrong way. The best competitor you have is yourself. And if I'm not on tracks, it's because he's laid this out. He's done his best working locally and beyond that. Plus, I'm a real man with a real job. I'm not just talking about being a firefighter or a screen printer or anything else. I'd actually been living that day in and day out. I'm a real person with responsibilities who can't drop everything to say, oh, I have a passion about racing, and so you drop everything else. You have to have a certain amount of, and I don't mean this negatively, but you have to have a certain level of no responsibility or we could call it irresponsibility, but let's just call it no responsibilities, which is where Frank was. And he's got sponsors, so he can go around the world and, end up with way too big of a head because of it. He goes, I've raced 5 minutes, only 2. Because you suck at riding, you never raced. You can't even make any of the 5 events that are only 2 hours from your home. If I don't show up where and when Frank thinks I should, he thinks I don't go places, but I go riding around here way more than he does. I've been up to Timberline, somewhere around, 30 times. And there's a lot of other places around here to go. There's some even twisty roads in town you don't even have to go more than 10, 15 minutes for that Frank doesn't even know about that I go to. In another thread, you implied that I don't inspire you. Well, I don't care. It's not my job to inspire you, but I'll tell you what. You're right, you don't inspire me, Frank, because I don't want to be a liar. But I'll tell you what, I've traveled the world for this sport. I've raced on 4 continents. My reward for that wasn't T-shirts. Some races don't include T-shirts. It's the memories of racing with my friends and meeting new people. Oh, and a World Series championship. So there he's gloating at the end there. And yeah, World Series championship, at the end of the year, they add up all your accrued points. And Frank, like I said, doesn't have a lot of other responsibilities. So the more races he makes, the more points he accrues. And he comes out with a World Series championship. But if you dissect it and look at individual race stats, he's not the best guy or the fastest one or even close to it over the finish line. But he knows that the more races he makes, the better chance he has of gaining that title. He had it for 1 year. There's been people in street luging that have had it for 2-3 years, mostly in a row, and they're not putting out this kind of attitude. This guy won it once, and he's been slipping ever since, from what I can see. All right. And yeah, as far as about the T-shirts, like I explained that before. If I sound anal about the T-shirt, it's because they know stuff about skating and the bearings and all that, and they can anally talk about it all day. I can do that with T-shirts, yes. I handed Volcanic Productions Mary Hill Festival of Speed a correctly built luge. It was passed. That's the respect I had for the event I was entering in. And I spent more money on Volcanic Productions, $200 and something, than they spent on me by giving me a cheap-ass T-shirt where they could have spent 80 cents to $1 more on the T-shirt and respected everybody by doing so. So, yeah, I had something to say about that, and I'm not sorry for it. But my doing so, Frank actually refers to that in one sentence of this whole 4 paragraphs of berating me. So that's not his inspiration for tearing me apart. He just got his passive-aggressive thing going again, and he decided to let me have it. Okay, then he says, you have totally burned out one of the best sports for training new riders because of your reckless behavior and confrontational, holier-than-thou attitude. Really? Yep, I'm confrontational when I have to be, but anybody and all the people that I still meet all the time appreciates what I build, and they appreciate my attitude because I never forget that I need to be a positive representative for what I do, whatever that is. And that's how I was at Mary Hill Festival of 2010. With anybody I got a chance to talk to. As a matter of fact, when a so-called pro street luger, he had all the room in the world to go around me, but instead he center punched me in the back right in the middle of a race. When I got to the bottom, I laughed it off and shook his hand. How's that for a confrontational, holier-than-thou attitude? That's not me. But again, Frank wasn't at Mary Hill Festival of Speed 2010, so he has no idea what I'm about. He's been a complete jerk to me, and now he's trying to turn it all around because that's just how he is. Because of this, the luge class and the only serious DH race in Portland has been axed. There is no serious DH race in Portland, and it's run by a guy whose girlfriend stole my brand new gloves because on one of these so-called serious downhill races, she didn't have any gloves to take part. She wanted to ride the butt board of her boyfriend, so I lent her my gloves, brand new gloves. I never got them back. She said, "Oh, we're going out to get high. I'll be right." I said, "I need my gloves back." "Oh, we'll be right back." Never saw him again. So this guy knows that his girlfriend ripped me off, and that's why he doesn't want to see me at the event that he puts on. And I haven't been banned from anything. It says you have been banned from Mount Tabor by the Neighborhood Association and Park Security. Really, I called him up and specifically to verify that. I got a recorded message back from Debbie saying that that is not true in any sense. So Frank's building a straw man, giving you another lie against me, and then he wants to build off that lie. I just hope that makes you realize the kind of person you are. Well, I do know what kind of person you are, but I am based on reality, not based on the lie you just told right before that or any of these other lies that you told. This is a total fiction. Okay, and then he ends it up at, you're a loser, a joke, and hurt the credibility of the sport every time you get on one of your piece of shit boards. I've already talked about that. I implore you to stop everything luge related. I'm not going to stop. You know why? Because street luging to me is an honorable sport. It has nothing to do with Frank Williams and what I've seen him do to it from the time I've met him and everything I've seen him do since then. Somehow, accrued points, like I said, he managed to get a championship. Next year, the year after that, and the year after that, it could be somebody totally different. And no matter who wins what, you know, the only thing I really care about is people who are champions every day in their life and the ethics and the integrity they have. Ethics and integrity that I can see and has been clearly been proven to me time and time again that Frank Williams does not have. And all these people that line up behind him, all these comments are from the people that line up behind him to agree with him. Not one of them knows me. They don't even have a chance to know me because I was brand new to the sport. And I'd done everything I could to respect the sport. So I've got lots of variations of this because on September 27th of last year, a year ago today, Frank Williams retracted his that statement that I just read to you. When you've told the truth, do you have to retract it? They banned me from the forum. I retracted nothing because I needed to tell the truth and I told it. So when that happened, I got banned and I was left with no way to defend myself. I thought, okay, Frank, you live 20 minutes from me. Why don't you come and stand before me toe to toe, man to man, if that's possible with him, and defend it toe to toe. A legal fight challenge. You don't have to be some professional fighter to challenge somebody to a fight. Physical fight. You don't. And so I challenged him. He wouldn't do it. He called the police, thinking that he could get them on his side like he's worked to get everybody else on his side. They said, hey, it's a legal challenge. We can't do anything. They even called me, and the officer, I think his name was Officer Hasty, he couldn't have been friendlier to me. And I explained to him, in a nutshell, basically what's going on here. He went back and had a talk with Frank. Well, if I was a fly on the wall, I probably would have heard him say, hey, you know, if you're going to go online and attack the guy and he lives 20 minutes from you, you shouldn't be surprised that this kind of stuff is going to happen. Why would you do that? Now, I don't know that the officer said that, but assuming he has enough brains to become a police officer, I'm sure he's a lot smarter than Frank, who didn't have the apparently brains or a drive to become a firefighter. So Frank now wants to have you worship him for being able to roll around the world on a glorified skateboard and so far win one championship, accrued points, remember. Well, you won't be able to thank him for ever coming and putting a fire out at your house or saving your kid or anything like that. Hey, but I might be a champion. I'm not a firefighter, but I've been in restaurants 2 times in the last 20 years where a restaurant crowded with people, somebody was choking, and I'm the one who got up and gave him the Heimlich maneuver. Everybody else just stood there staring like, what do I do? I knew what to do. Do the Heimlich maneuver. In my life, in my profession, in everything I do, I can't sit around wondering what the next step is. I'm thinking steps ahead. Very helpful in street luging. That's one reason why I love the sport and I wanted to get better at it. I thought, man, this is right in there with how my brain works and thinks. But I live and think like that every day. I think fast and I respect people, and the people that know me know that. Why in the world it happens that a guy finds some way to be internationally respected for a complete bank of lies against me? How in the world he finagled his way into being able to do that while I'm trying to bring myself up, the right way and a great sport? I still don't understand. It's very disappointing to me that the street luge community would support a liar. You can call him a champion all you want. I know Frank Williams as a complete liar and coward. I've known that about him since September what, 2009, February 2010. I think one of those times, yeah, February, just before February 2010, I think I met him. Anyway, I've known that, and I've seen it building, and I've chosen to go my own way a long time. But his jealousy, passive aggressiveness, has never let go. You know, if he's threatened by me, he's threatened by a guy who has something to bring that he doesn't have to bring. Because with me, it's honor, integrity, ethics. It shows in my boards, it shows in my screen printing, it shows in my work. Anybody who knows me can tell you that. Frank wants you to believe the lie, the completely opposite thing. You know, there's a saying out there, it says it's easier to deceive somebody than it is to convince them that they've been deceived. Frank has deceived you. I try to convince you that you've been deceived, and a whole forum got sucked into Frank's lies. So I'm here on YouTube to say my piece about it, and I won't stop. I have the drive. Why shouldn't I? It doesn't cost me anything to stand up for myself. If I don't, that would cost me something. What is it costing you to believe in champions that aren't champions? Because I know of at least one champion who's anything but a champion. Thanks for watching this.